This video was taken from a few pages of my new science fiction novel entitled The Snapdragon Code by Jude Dupère-Duville, now offered on Amazon Books. Let's begin. The 200-year-old campus on the Big Lake was absolutely more than impressive. The school might have started out long ago as a very good local high school for the village kids, but now it served mainly the children of the elites. This morning, the stately brick and column building looked out at the teal blue waters of the lake as though it were the birthplace of American mythology. The driver parked the limo in front of the entrance, and Dr. Marchand was already waiting for them there since Stan had phoned him just before their arrival.
Dr. Marchand, would you mind if we discussed a few things in the limo on our way to the restaurant? I'm on a particularly tight schedule today, so I thought I could go over a few things with you concerning the young man I told you about on the phone.
Of course.
Preston Marchand obliged without hesitation. Once the window between the chauffeur and the back passenger area was put up, Stan clarifies that he would prefer to tour the campus only after they had lunch together. On their way to the restaurant, Stan then explains that Evie Paradis, the boy's aunt and guardian, has already submitted an application to your school. However, she was told it was pending or dependent on certain qualified references.
Well, the reason I'm here in person, Dr. Marchand, is to assert that I will be his reference and his benefactor. However, my sponsorship of the boy, as well as my endowment to your academy, depends on your keeping my name out of it until the time is right. I would prefer that his aunt not find out just yet that I'm involved. Now, here's the sensitive part, Preston. By the way, I hope you don't mind if I call you Preston. I would like you to let Evie Paradis know today that you will be accepting Adam into Webster's for this school year. Here is the situation I planned out. You see, Miss Paradis works at the restaurant we will be dining at today. During our meal, I will introduce you as the headmaster at the academy. Knowing Miss Paradis the way I do, she will most likely mention that Adam has an application pending with your school. This is where you tell her that you will intervene to speed things along. You understand where I'm going with this?
Yes, of course. I'll do my best to assure her that her nephew's application will be expedited and that she can undoubtedly expect an acceptance letter from the school within the week.
It seems you understand perfectly.
Stan tells Preston, and within just minutes they are walking through the restaurant's front door and being seated. Stan knew Evie would be working at Mark's that day. Randy's man at Macmillan PI had double-checked for him. The restaurant was decorated in an Italian motif with dark beams on the ceilings and with enlarged black and white photos of famous places in Italy. It was the perfect place for intimate and even clandestine conversations, and this is exactly what was about to transpire here today. As soon as Evie reaches Stan's table, she recognizes him and greets him with her usual lovely smile.
Mr. Rothman, what brings you back to this part of the country so soon?
Well, I like the area near the lake here so much, when I was here last, that I decided to look for properties nearby for a kind of getaway.
That's wonderful. Maybe you'll get to be a regular here.
Evie says and then proceeds to ask them if they want anything to drink while looking over the menus.
Preston, I think I'll have a vodka martini. Would you like the same?
Why, yes, that would be fine with me.
Dr. Marchand answers a little hesitantly, as he was not usually a drinking man. In this case, however, he did not want to disagree with Rothman on anything.
I'll be right back with those.
Evie says as she walks away while carrying an idea in her head that had just now dawned on her. She was now on a mission for Adam, and she had no intention of failing him. While waiting for the bartender to prepare her drinks, Evie had begun rehearsing her pitch in order to get Stan to vouch for Adam. Josh, the mixologist, had started making small talk, but Evie was too busy planning her approach to even hear him. First, I'll thank Mr. Rothman again for the very generous tip at the conference. Then I'll casually mention that it will help pay for Adam's tuition costs. Next, I'll explain how I need a good reference from someone to get him in that school, all in that order. It will sound totally spontaneous, she tells herself. Then she thinks how damned incredibly lucky it was that Stan Rothman actually came in here today. The stars had aligned, and now she was going to make this happen as she crossed two fingers of both hands. As Evie ceremoniously places the martinis down on the M embossed cocktail napkins, she turns slightly to face the man who was going to change Adam's life. The stakes were high, and her sudden nervousness must have shown on her face, like when she had botched her high school recital.
Mr. Rothman, I do want to thank you again for that very, very generous gift you left me when I waited on you at the lodge. I want you to know that you did a good thing. because my nephew will be starting high school in the fall, and this will help with his tuition costs.
Well, Adam's a fortunate boy to have such a wonderful aunt who cares about his future.
Yes, well, he's very special. Gifted is what they tell me.
Eve says, deciding to stop right there before continuing. Maybe I should wait until after he has had his martini, and then he'll be in the right mood for me to ask my favor. After all, I helped him out of a tight spot one time, and hopefully now he will reciprocate. Stan orders a beef braciole and his guest baked stuffed haddock. Predictably, it wasn't long before Stan ordered a second martini while Preston continued nursing his first. Evie was quite happy to bring over Stan's second drink, thinking this would soften him up a bit. If only she knew that would not be necessary. The entire time that Stan was in the restaurant, he watched Evie instead of the incredible lake views that most visitors came here just to see. Stan didn't care if Preston noticed him watching her. He had the doctor just where he wanted him, with one hand out for money and the other eating his food. Evie had a lot of friends at this restaurant, including not just the servers, but some of the patrons who apparently were regulars. Someday, Stan told himself he would come here often and always with Evie on his arm.
Can I get you gentlemen anything else? We have some mouth-watering desserts here, including our homemade tiramisu.
No thank you, Evie, but I will try a dessert on my next visit. I will certainly be coming back here since I just put an offer in on a property in Wolfboro, not far from here.
Evie did not comment on that revelation. She was too focused on the task at hand, and Stan knew what it was.
Mr. Rothman, I was wondering if I could speak to you privately for a moment. I need your advice on something that I think you could help me with.
Of course, I'd be delighted. Preston, we will return shortly.
Stan says to his guest as he gladly gets up and follows Evie to the outside deck while covertly motioning to his bodyguards to stay where they were seated.
Mr. Rothman, I need a special favor. I need a reference from somebody important like you in order to have a chance getting my nephew enrolled at the Webster Preparatory, not far from here. The man in charge of admissions over there says I need to find someone with influence to vouch for Adam. I've contacted a number of people, but so far, I've gotten nowhere. Right now, now that you're here, you're my only hope. Could you give me a letter of reference so I could submit that with his application?
Well, she had let it all out, the big favor, and at that point Evie was close to tears, even though she was trying her best to conceal it.
Evie, this is an auspicious day indeed. You will not believe this, Evie, but the man that I'm dining with right now, Dr. Marchand, is the chairman of the board of that very same school that Adam applied to. Let's go back to the table and I'll formally introduce you to him, and let's see if we can get this settled right here and now. Are you ready?
The surprising turn of events has all but stunned Evie, to the point that all she can do is shake her head in the affirmative. When the two of them return to Stan's table, he motions for her to...
Take a seat here, Evie, just for a moment. If your boss gets upset, I'll talk to him.
Stan could see that Evie was almost tongue-tied at the moment, so he takes over.
Preston, I'd like to introduce you to Miss Evie Paradis, a very dedicated, hard-working lady who tells me she has submitted, on behalf of her very special and gifted nephew, an application to Webster's. Unfortunately, the application is being held up pending the proper references. Therefore, would it be acceptable, Preston, if I were to personally vouch for the boy and his family?
Mr. Rothman, if you tell me that you know this family and that you believe Adam should be admitted to our school, then that's all I need to hear. Miss Paradis, Adam could have no better reference, as you probably know.
Dr. Marchand says as he reaches out to shake her hand and welcome her and Adam to Webster's.
Evie, would you be kind enough to write down your phone number and address, and I'll follow up with the school myself when I get back to my office.
Stan says, promising her in not so many words that this was a fait accompli.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rothman and Dr. Marchand. I'm beyond happy for your help with this. It's been weighing on my mind for so long.
Evie says as she volunteers to pay for their meals.
It has already been taken care of.
Stan says as he points to the chauffeur.
We'll be in touch with you shortly, Evie, and thank you again for your help at the hotel. I won't ever forget it.
Stan tells her as he and Dr. Marchand leave the restaurant and drive off. Evie hollers as she runs in the house. Then she hears Bea and Adam out in the backyard. Evie grabs a beer and a frosted glass from the freezer and goes out to the screen porch.
Hey, Mom, would you come in here for a minute?
No, you come out here. It's beautiful out tonight and I've got the mosquito lamp going.
Mom, I've got really good news about Adam's application for prep school. I had a chance to speak to the top man over at Webster's today. You know how come? I waited on his table for lunch. When I told him that we had submitted all the paperwork and we were just waiting for their answer, he said he would handle it personally.
Evie explains as she pops open her beer can.
Yes. But Evie, did you tell him that you did not have a reference yet?
Well, I actually do have a reference, a good one.
So, Evie, for God's sake, tell me who's your reference.
Evie tells her it was Mr. Rothman, the man who had given her the $5,000 tip.
Sometimes things like this just happen. It was pure luck, what they call serendipity.
I understand that, Evie, but that's awfully coincidental, don't you think? I mean, it was just a week ago.
Anyway, Mum, Mr. Rothman knows the head guy, and he vouched for Adam right there in the restaurant.
I just don't want you to get your hopes up. People say things and don't follow through.
Yes, Mum. But I helped Mr. Rothman that day at the conference, and he said he'd intercede with the school on Adam's behalf.
You know, Evie, you're still a pretty woman. Maybe he likes you.
Real funny, Mum.
Less than a week had passed when B goes to get the mail and finds a large envelope with the Academy's address stamped on it, addressed to Evie and Adam. There it was, an official letter that started out with the words, "Congratulations. We have reviewed your application and references, and we are pleased to welcome you and your family to our academy." The letter exclaims and then goes on about the forms enclosed that would have to be completed and so forth. What caught B's attention was the last paragraph, which stated, "You will be pleased to learn that Adam's full tuition will be covered by the Rothman Foundation for Educational Excellence. After examining Adam's grades and scholastic reports, as well as our interviews with his school's teachers and principal, we feel Adam meets our high standards." At the bottom of the letter there was a PS notation that read, "It was my pleasure to have met and talked with Miss Paradis on Saturday, and I look forward to making Adam's acquaintance shortly. I'm certain he will be a great asset and ambassador for our school. Please call us to schedule an appointment as soon as you are able."